No one is too young to make a difference. That's the motto of a dedicated environmental activist based right here in Lagos and featured on today's show. I'm Chris Alems. Thank you for joining us for this new edition of Echo Africa.
Hello, Chris. Good to see you again. Our program today will be presenting several examples of how much can be achieved once you dedicate yourself to a cause. Here is a look at what is coming up. Young people in Benin are constructing more eco-friendly ovens. How architects are designing eco-friendly houses. And a designer here in Uganda uses an unusual natural material to create beautiful garments. You may have heard the Earth referred to as the blue planet. That is because over 70% of its surface is covered by the sea. And yet, so many people, especially here in Africa, struggle with water shortages on a daily basis. Now, if we could take water from our oceans for drinking, bathing, cooking, and also farming, it would dramatically change the lives of millions. This report from Somalia has more.
Securing a day's supply of drinking water is hard work in Kismayo, a city on Somalia's coast. The wells are up to 200 meters deep, and hauling up the water canisters is strenuous. Since rainfall is scarce, fresh water is too. Salt water from the nearby ocean infiltrates and contaminates the wells. Still, Abdul Qadri Ahmed and his neighbors come here most every day. They have no other choice. It's exhausting to draw water from the deep well, and it's salty too. But I cannot afford to buy clean water. In recent years, Somalia has experienced several failed rainy seasons. The land around Kismayo is drying out. For residents, it's a disaster. There's little grazing land left and animals are dying of thirst. The ground is so parched, it's hardly worth farming. Over 2 million Somalians are already feeling the effects of climate change. Liban Hussein from Somalia's Ministry of Energy and Water Resources is worried about their future. The drought has adversely affected people and their livestock in Kismayo and the surrounding areas. There is a severe water shortage in Kismayo. Some of the wells have dried up and the rivers have too. We are not expecting rains in the coming months, but the drought will end when Allah sends us rain. But even without any rain, help has arrived in the form of a water desalination plant. It was built by Somali business people who wanted to improve the water quality in the wells, so they founded their own farm. We established the Afi Water Supply Company in Kismayo in 2014 after we saw there was no clean and drinkable water in Kismayo. When we dug deep wells, we noted that the water was salty, so we bought machines to desalinate the water. Ordinarily, this would be the government's responsibility, but Somalia has been in political turmoil for decades. The government does not collect enough money through taxation, so there is no public investment, and building a desalination plant requires millions of dollars. At the last climate change conference, Somalia asked industrialized nations for funds to cover such costs as it produces just a fraction of the world's carbon emissions. The desalination plant used to be powered by a diesel generator. It was expensive to operate and environmentally harmful. But now, the company is using green energy. Big solar collectors near the plant replace much of the need for fossil fuels. We were using 15 barrels of diesel per day, which caused a lot of air pollution. After we installed the solar system, we cut diesel consumption by 80%. We use diesel motors at night, but when we have enough water at night, we run the motors. Our water production has increased, and we have lowered its cost by 60%. The desalination plant has been a blessing for people here, supplying fresh water to around 5,000 households. And because solar energy has reduced the cost of clean drinking water, even poorer Somalis can now afford it. People flock here to buy it, as it sells for a fraction of the former price. Now Farhiya Mohammed comes here regularly to, as she says, buy good water for herself and her family. I used to walk 2 kilometers to get water. And then it was not good to drink because the water was so salty. Now Afi brings clean and drinkable water right here close to my home. And that's made her life much easier because despite the persistent drought, she still has access to plenty of drinking water. Though if Somalia's drought gets worse, even salty well water will be in short supply. So the head of the water company aims to build a plant that will desalinate salt water straight from the ocean instead of the salty water from the wells.
Where would we be without the ocean? It's not just a water supply, it also stores carbon and helps to regulate the climate. And perhaps even more important, it is a valuable source of food.
You are right about that, Sandra. But unfortunately, a lot of trees are sacrificed in order to smoke fish over burning coals. Yet, there are ways to do it safer with less fuel, as we see in this example from Benin.
Near the coast of Benin, many people make their living from fish. It's mainly women who buy up the catches before smoking the fish and then selling them. But they often use cardboard boxes as fuel, which can release hazardous fumes, including carbon dioxide. That's why the NGO Young Volunteers for the Environment has designed a new type of brick-built oven.
At first, we'll still use wood, but these ovens don't use as much of it, and they allow the women to produce more smoked fish in record time. Plus, with these ovens, the women can work together.
The NGO has built 5 of the large-scale ovens in Benin. They're used collectively by more than 100 women in 3 villages.
I like the new oven. The smoke isn't a problem for us anymore because it rises upwards. It's also better for our eyes than the way we used to do it.
The idea is to eventually phase out wood completely and replace it with biochar. That's charcoal made from plant matter, such as leaves. And that would further reduce the CO2 emissions.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
To Europe now. Sometimes it's good to think out of the box, as they say. And that's exactly what a Swiss architect did when he sat down and designed an extremely down-to-earth house more than 30 years ago.
At first glance, this earth house in Switzerland, embedded in nature, looks more like a hobbit hole than a conventional home. But its aesthetic exterior conceals one of the most environmentally and climate-friendly homes available. They are the brainchild of Swiss architect Peter Vetsch, who invented these earth houses over 40 years ago.
It's just a logical solution. in terms of environmental protection, integration, and ecology.
Normally, houses take space away from nature. Here, vegetation can grow on the earth-covered roof, and the house melts harmoniously into the landscape.
Here, there's a 50-centimeter layer of earth, but the cover increases in depth further up. On the very top, there's up to 1 meter and 20 centimeters of earth. So a lot can grow. There isn't much ceiling. We're restoring green spaces.
Earth houses are low energy, foster biodiversity, and are cheaper to build than conventional houses. First, a woven steel grid is erected. This is then filled with concrete and then covered with a layer of polyurethane or clay. But what about the inside of the house? Our host was already expecting us.
Nice to have you.
The house has curved walls, high, rounded ceilings, and fanciful paintwork. The rooms fuse together elegantly. Herbert Umbrecht has been living in his earth house for 31 years. He was fascinated by Peter Vetsch's design from the first time he saw it.
You don't notice you're under the earth. You've got these big windows, and you see greenery everywhere you look. I'm comfortable living here, and the indoor climate is very steady.
These stone-carved houses in Tunisia, or these ones in Cappadocia, Turkey, served as inspiration for Peter Vetsch. He built his first earth house in 1974 for his own family. Today, there are about 100 in Switzerland, Austria, Germany, and on the Crimean Peninsula. He also designed this earth house-style public park near Zurich. Generally, he is wary of the trend to integrate ever more high-tech elements in architecture.
There's a return to nature, to simplicity. Why all these expectations? People are born from the womb, after all. It just felt like, click, why do we keep building everything square?
He has been retired for a long time, but that's not slowing him down, even at age 79. He keeps working on new projects. Currently, he's designing an ecological apartment building.
This building method involves very few materials. I don't need to be all that precise. I'm not fitting boards down to the centimeter, so I can follow my intuition a lot more. I build houses a bit like a little kid playing in a sandbox, increasing the height here or there. It's creative. If I could use 3D printing, that would be the best. Then I could make the design here in Switzerland, send it to China, and they'd print the houses.
These earth houses are ahead of their time, but more and more people are taking interest in alternative living concepts.
Lately, I've been receiving more and more requests. You can feel that people are paying greater attention to the environment, and they're realizing building a freestanding box isn't environmentally friendly.
Will our understanding of architecture change? How can we live more sustainably? Peter Vetsch's design may provide at least partial answers to these questions.
Wow, that was another great example of what nature has to offer if we open our eyes and ears to it. Architecture is just one example, but there are others.
Here in Uganda, for instance, people have been making clothes from 100% renewable source for centuries. Now, one designer is using it to make sustainable high fashion. Let's take a look.
This bark will be used to make clothes. After a drawn-out and complex process, it will be turned into fabric for Doreen Namatovo's creations. The designer makes fashion from bark cloth in her studio in Kampala. In Uganda, it is an age-old tradition, and one she thinks has a lot of potential.
We are trying to revamp the backcloth from the locally known culture, norms and whatever attached to them, and appreciating it into a modern fashion wedding gown.
Namatovu gets the backcloth 280 kilometers from the capital, where the traditional technique is still practiced. Here, cloth is made from the inner bark of the natal fig, locally known as the mutuba tree. After the bark is carefully peeled from the tree trunk, it is soaked in hot water for several minutes. This is primarily done to remove sap, but also to soften the material. Then the bark is beaten with wooden mallets. It takes hours of pounding and stretching before a usable broad fabric is created. While the cloth dries in the sun, Namatovu talks to Bukenya Katamira. The designer also wants to adopt a tree. In future, she will get all the bark cloth from a particular tree at an agreed price.
Because I want this bark cloth every year. So in that process, the farmer will make sure he plants more and more trees and also keep those ones that he already has.
Bukenya Katamira plants a new tree every time one is adopted. But he also takes care to protect freshly peeled ones. They are wrapped in banana leaves and left in peace to give them time to rejuvenate. After a year, Katamira can harvest new bark from the same tree. This process can be repeated for up to 60 years.
I'm confident that even my grandchildren will earn from the tree without cutting it down. They'll continue to get more benefits from keeping it.
Katamira also wants to safeguard the art, which is on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage list. He's worried too many trees have been cut down and that young people are choosing Western styles over this eco-friendly traditional one. He now trains craftsmen in the technique, which also creates jobs.
If you cut down a mutuba tree to make charcoal, for instance, you can make quick money, but only once. If I harvest the bark, I may earn less money, but I'll be able to get that money over and over again, for years.
Bukenya Katamira wants the bark cloth to be promoted as a sustainable alternative to wood, plastic, and even paper. He has already partnered with local artists to further explore the renewable material. Doreen Namatovu's backcloth gown is now finished. She hopes for more visibility for this African heritage and its role in protecting the environment.
That dress is gorgeous. Sadly, most clothes are still made from synthetic materials, and not only are they less than environmentally friendly to produce, they are not so easy to recycle either.
That's right, Sandra. Materials like plastic make life convenient, but there is already more out there than our planet can cope with. But that doesn't stop dedicated environmentalists from doing whatever they can to make things better.
Without the environment, we are non-existent. Imagine walking through your normal day life. There's no way you can't interact with the environment. From the soil underneath your feet, to the air you breathe, to the sounds you hear. Nature is a very, very huge part of our existence, and we shouldn't live in disharmony with nature. We should understand that nature needs to be preserved so that we can be preserved as humans.
A Changemaker boot camp in Lagos, Nigeria. 20-year-old environmental activist Oluwaseyi Mwejo founded an NGO for training the next generation of movers and shakers.
You remember the drill, right? So what's the name of your team? 3, 2, 1, go!
Her students here explore ways to make saving the environment creative and fun, such as separating waste in pairs with their legs tied to one another. At the end of the workshop, the best project is decided on. The NGO You Recycle supports the winning idea. Mwejo's NGO has reached over 6,000 young people in 11 African countries.
I've learned new ways to upcycle, recycle, how to go about it, and how to be a leader amongst my peers. I want to continue actually educating my peers and people younger than me about the impact they have on the environment, the good impacts, and then the bad impacts that they can also have on the environment. I also want to teach them how to be leaders and be change makers amongst their peers and other people around them.
Someone described the climate crisis as, for instance, a young child is standing in front of a bus that is coming straight ahead of her and just smash her in a bit of an eye, and then nobody's really doing anything about it.
Students from the Bright Achievers School have spent several days collecting and cleaning plastic bottles. With a touch of paint, they are transformed into street decorations for their neighborhood.
When you look at the other side of the school, you'll see that we have a dirt there, which contains a lot of plastic bottles. And we see that we can make use of these plastic bottles. And what we now come together as a team, that what can we use it for?
Last year, the young people collected over 12,000 bottles as part of similar projects.
They are doing what they call upcycling. Upcycling is a process of converting waste into something of value. In this process, it's not like recycling, because recycling you have to break it down to raw material and use that raw material to create something. But upcycling, you're using that stuff to create something like probably an artwork, a monument, or something that basically is very aesthetically pleasing.
The sprawling city of Lagos has a special waste management authority. Oluwaseyi Mwejo is hoping to get support from the department, which has just acquired 100 new garbage trucks. The local government is also investing money in local recycling incentive programs. Currently, hundreds of recycling containers are still waiting to be installed around Lagos. Oluwaseyi Mwejo wants to ask the Waste Management Director why the city is still choking in garbage.
15 years ago, these plastics, they never existed. A lot of us were using glass bottles where you drink and then you return your bottle back to the bottling company to refill. But with the population challenge and the growth, it is necessary for us to find an easier and quicker way to get all their products to us. So if there is a way we can prevent their usage, it's always going to be better than the recycling side of it.
The young activist unexpectedly finds an ally in the managing director. The two quickly agree to plan a joint conference for high school and university students.
Now, when is the next event again?
So the next Global Recycling Day is March 18th every year.
March 18th. Yeah. All right, so we can plan. I think I'm happy. Let's do that. Let's do it.
And there's plenty of work to do before that.
Nigeria's constitution has so many laws, but it's just written. Most of them, they aren't put into practice. We need to make laws and effect laws, implement laws, enforce those laws concerning preserving the environment. For instance, issues like climate change and glass flaring, oil spillage that is terribly impacting the Niger Delta region. There are laws that are supposed to be protecting those communities, but they aren't being followed because companies are choosing profit over planet, profit over lives.
When Oluwaseyi Mwejo isn't busy serving the planet, she studies law at the University of Lagos. Here, too, her focus is environmental protection. But sometimes even the most dedicated climate hero needs a break. Spending time with friends is a welcome reward after all the hard work.
And I'm still tired of sitting back and watching the planet deteriorate into a very, very horrible state, right? We don't have much time and we need to take action as soon as possible to preserve what we love. And issues like climate change, for instance, is actually a threat to those things. No one is too young to make a difference. You probably heard that before, and it's a fact. Don't ever look down on yourself. Don't ever look down on your circumstances, your background, your family, like where you came from. You have so much potential.
I think she has a bright future ahead of her. That's all we have time for today. Hope you enjoyed the program, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. For now, it's goodbye from me, Chris Lems in Lagos, Nigeria.
So long, Chris. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you and all of your viewers out there in a week's time. Until then, do take care. I am Sandra Twinovidio, signing off from Kampala here in Uganda.